Xbox have really been treating us to some great announcements this June, and this week they have decided to drop a pretty nice sale to do with mainly open world games, but then there are also quite a lot of indies which I really do love and I also highly recommend. So today I will be covering about 15 games in this video, all of which are at their lowest price points ever, so I do apologise to your wallet or even purse in advance. Before we do dive in though, I do give away a free Xbox game here on the channel in these weekly sales videos, and all you have to do is comment below. Congratulations to last week's winner, just hit me up on our awesome Discord community server and I'll get that game right over to you. Usually I do these sales videos on a Wednesday, so check back next week to see if you won. Now with that out of the way, my name is Fletcher and this is Xbox Nation, and let's dive into the awesome sales for this week. First up today, Capcom's iconic beast-slaying franchise roars back with Monster Hunter Wilds, and this latest entry was easily one of their most ambitious yet. This one though is actually set in a sprawling, dynamic ecosystem where massive creatures do roam freely and the environment can shift in real time. Wilds actually introduced some pretty cool new traversal mechanics alongside smarter AI and some seriously cinematic set pieces. You can of course hunt solo or join a group online, but be warned as every fight will demand careful preparation, precise timing and mastery over your chosen weapon. The customization depth alongside gear crafting and satisfying combat loop that the series is known for are back in full force, only now with more freedom and visual flair than ever before. With 30% off, bringing the price down to just £45.49 is a great time to lock in. Pepper Grinder is actually a very slick high-speed action platformer where you'll drill through terrain, water and enemies with style. This is actually one indie that I did mention quite a few months ago now, but I feel it was heavily gone under the radar since its release. In this one though, you will play as Pepper, a treasure hunting adventurer armed with a massive drill, navigating a vibrant pixel world full of hidden paths and secret loot. The game does actually blend precision platforming with fast-paced combat in a way that feels completely awesome, and it sort of makes it feel like a mix between something like Celeste and Dig Dug, but with a sprinkle of Wario Land energy. The movement is very tight and just incredibly satisfying, especially when you chain together different jumps, grinds and dashes mid-combat. This one is only at £6.24 with a whopping 50% off, making it such a must grab, especially if you like modern indies but with some old school bite. One of the most hyped upcoming action games is finally coming to Xbox, and before the release it's actually getting its first discount, or well I guess I should call it a pre-order discount, and I thought it was worth highlighting as it's only available for a limited time. If you're unfamiliar though, Black Myth Wukong is a jaw-dropping Souls-like based on the classic Chinese myth Journey to the West. This one of course is powered by Unreal Engine 5, so it looks and feels next generation from the moment that you'll pick up your Xbox controller, and it does blend some pretty cool cinematic boss battles with fluid staff combat, mythical transformations and just stunning Eastern fantasy. It's not just a visual showcase either though, as the enemy variety alongside the lore-rich environments and combat depth hint at a game that could genuinely rival the best in this genre. It's now available for just £43.99 thanks to that 20% discount. It's not at the best price that's actually been seen across other competitor consoles, but this is your chance to pre-order a game that was, to be honest, one of 2024's best releases. If you're like me and sometimes you do crave some pure old school chaos, then Serious Sam's Syberian Mayhem does deliver that insane carnage in glorious fashion. This standalone expansion actually sends us deep into the frigid Russian wilderness, armed to the teeth and surrounded by hundreds of on-screen enemies at any given time. Of course, it is unapologetically frantic, there's no cover mechanics, no stealth, it's just non-stop explosions and massive guns, the way that classic shooters really used to be. You will be facing some massive bosses, unlocking some absurd weapons, and then sprinting through some snowy wastelands while blowing apart alien hordes. It isn't subtle by any means, but that's pretty much exactly the point. It really is a love letter to relentless no-frills FPS action. It's now at just £4.18, and to be honest for me, that is the perfect weekend adrenaline fix, especially if you want some outlandish action and an incredibly absurd story. South Park Snow Day was quite a weird one when it first launched, as it was a big turn away from the turn-based games that we loved from the previous generation Xbox consoles. Instead, we now have a brawler, and it's set during a school-closing snowstorm with all the chaotic, foul-mouthed characters that we all know and love. In this one though, you will once again take on the role of the new kid, this time teaming up with Cartman, Stan, Carl and Kenny in full-on third-person hack-and-slash battles across snowy streets, backyards and fantasy realms. Don't get me wrong, the story here is pretty naff, and compared to the Stick of Truth, it's certainly a dud, but for the price today, it's pretty worth it, and it's ultimately a fun game to switch your brain off to. Right now, it's £12.49 and it gets you into this one, and as I mentioned, it's a great low price for once on the Xbox store. Of course, if you're after an open world adventure that doesn't take itself too seriously, but actually does still deliver some tight gameplay and rich exploration, then Immortals Fenyx Rising is a total sleeper hit. Inspired by Greek mythology, you'll take up arms as Fenyx, a customizable hero dropped into a vibrant, stylized world that's obviously full of gods, monsters, and puzzles. You can think of it like Breath of the Wild meets Assassin's Creed, but with a more comedic twist and a light-hearted tone. The traversal here is very smooth and the combat feels fluid. To be honest, my favourite part of it all was just the world building, and it's packed with tons of secrets, dungeons, and clever environmental challenges. With an 80% discount, bringing it down to just under £7, it's a ridiculous amount of content for the price point, and easily one of Ubisoft's most underappreciated open world gems. I just wish they never cancelled the sequel, so if there's anyone from the head of Ubisoft watching, definitely greenlight that sequel. An indie game that I absolutely love is up next, and it's so bloody good and often gets overlooked just simply due to its art style. Well, to give you a bit of background on this one, it is set during the harrowing backdrop of World War I, and Conscript actually throws you into a retro-inspired survival horror experience where every bullet, every item, and every decision counts. You'll be exploring some grim trenches and war-torn villages in search of your missing brother, all while solving different puzzles and battling nightmarish enemies that blend psychological horror with historical dread. Its fixed camera perspective and resource management really call back to the golden era of classic Resident Evil games, but the World War I setting does give it a completely unique flavour. Right now, it's a whopping 50% off and just available for £12.50, and to be honest, for that price, it's the perfect time to experience this more gritty, tense indie that horror fans absolutely should not overlook. If you've been missing the over-the-top slow-mo gun-view action from the golden days of Fear, then Trepang 2 is here to scratch that very specific and very violent itch. This is a no-nonsense first-person shooter where you will play as an enhanced soldier with supernatural reflexes, and you'll be tearing through different rooms with akimbo SMGs, roundhouse kicks, and just brutal executions. The combat is really just pure adrenaline. It's incredibly fast, weighty, and just unapologetically chaotic, with stylish slow-motion mechanics and meaty gunplay. Underneath the hood and all of that sort of blood and bullet time though, there's a surprisingly solid sci-fi story here with some impressive level design. This week it is down to just £15 and it's 50% off its usual price, so it really is a must play for anyone who misses the gritty shooters of the mid-2000s or just the Xbox 360 era. As someone who has all the gamer score for this next game, I think my opinion is well worth noting down when it comes to this awesome third-person shooter. With all post-launch updates, DLC, and improvements bundled in, the Ultimate Edition of Ghost Recon Breakpoint finally delivered the tactical shooter that we were promised at launch, and it's utterly fantastic. Well, not as good as Wildlands, but still pretty great. This time though, this new one was actually set on the fictional island of Eora, and of course the game blends stealth, teamwork, and open world exploration like you kind of expect from this franchise these days. The Ultimate Edition though does give you the base game, the year 1 pass, so it gives you a ton of extra content, and that can be stuff like extra missions, a ton of cosmetic content, and it really does make it the definitive version. With a massive 85% discount, bringing it down to just 15 quid, there's never been a better time to squad up and drop in, and I'll be keen to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments below. If you've been craving some snowy adrenaline, then Steep is still one of the most satisfying extreme sports games out there, and it's well worth diving into even if you liked Riders Republic. This one though was set across a vast alpine region and real-world mountain ranges, and it also lets you snowboard, ski, wingsuit and paraglide down all of these massive peaks with a seamless open-world approach. The movement physics in this one feel smooth and satisfying, and the freedom to just pick a spot on the map and launch yourself downhill is incredibly liberating. Of course, I think you will really love this one, especially if you like games like Riders Republic. I do have to say though that the movement and the physics here are well above Riders Republic in every single regard, so if you love that game, you will absolutely fall in love with this one. Whether you're chasing high scores, racing your friends, or just want to chill out in the snow-covered wilderness, there's a relaxing yet thrilling vibe throughout this experience. It's now 70% off this week, and Steep still remains a fantastic value for fans of sports sims or just open world exploration. Adore was one that I actually really wasn't aware of until making this video, but I did have a couple of people within our community mentioning it to me to put it on this sales video for today. Well, having a look a little bit deeper into this one, it actually looks to offer a very unique spin on the action RPG genre, where instead of fighting directly, you actually summon creatures to do battle on your behalf. It looks to be about positioning, synergy and timing, as you'll be guiding your monsters in fast-paced real-time combat while managing different cooldowns and learning enemy patterns. Each run looks to also be procedurally generated, so it really does encourage your experimentation along with smart creature combinations, and that does change how you approach every single encounter. I have looked at the reviews for this one, and there does seem to be a surprisingly emotional story hidden beneath its charming visuals, so for just £10, I don't really know how you can go wrong with this one if you pick it up in this week's sale. Few indie gems out there have left an impact on me like Death's Door actually has, and now's the best time to see why. It was unfortunate to see this game leave Game Pass, but at £4.18, this is a blimmin' bargain for one of the best indies to ever grace Xbox consoles in the past decade. In this one though, you play as a tiny crow working as a soul reaper in a beautifully crafted world full of mysteries, secrets and danger. The combat for this one was actually quite surprising to me, as I never expected it in a game that looks like this one, but it's very fast, tight and rewarding, with boss fights that feel just the right amount of punishing. Its visuals are very stylish and clean, and the music, well, it's absolutely stunning, and each area feels like a handcrafted work of art. On top of that, the story does unfold in a surprisingly emotional way, with tons of dark humour and melancholic undertones throughout the experience. Now, I have said it here before and I will say it again, Far Cry 6 in terms of its gameplay is bloody fantastic. The world here is also pretty good and lovely to look at, but the story, well, let's just say it's pretty pants. However, if open world chaos is what you're after this week, then Far Cry 6 delivers it in spades, and for the price today is a relative bargain, to be honest. This is set in a politically charged Caribbean island of Yara, and you'll be joining a resistance movement to overthrow a brutal dictator played by Giancarlo Esposito. The game does blend stealth, all-out action, and ridiculous custom weapons like CD launchers and jetpack rocket barrages into one of the most unrestrained Far Cry experiences we've ever seen before. There's loads to do as well, and the amount of free added content that they brought into the game after its launch was pretty decent. Right now, you can pick it up for just £15 thanks to a massive 75% discount, and to be honest, I really wouldn't turn my nose up at that price point. Now, Inscryption starts off as this sort of eerie little card game lit by flickering candles, but it doesn't take too long before it completely flips the script. What seems like a straightforward roguelike turns into a bizarre mind-bending journey, packed with puzzles, hidden secrets, and moments that break the fourth wall in ways that I never saw coming. The constant shifts in this gameplay and tone really kept me hooked, and I never knew what was around the corner, and that's exactly why I love this indie gem. It's one of those rare games that does stick with you after the credits roll, so if you're into stuff that's really weird, atmospheric, or even story driven, this one is a must play. At just £6.69, it's easily one of the most memorable indie games that I've played in years. Swordship really took a big risk by tossing out the one thing that most action games do rely on, guns, and somehow ends up feeling even more intense because of it. You're dodging bullets, weaving between enemies, and using the environment to turn their firepower against them. The movement feels incredibly smooth, and every decision you make really does matter. I keep coming back to it because there's always something so deeply satisfying about mastering its rhythm, as no two runs ever feel quite the same. Plus, that pulsating electronic soundtrack hits just right when things get incredibly hectic. For just £3.39 at 80% off is a slick, clever twist on this genre that's absolutely worth a shot if you want something more fast, fresh, and totally different. So, what game are you looking to pick up this week? You'll have to let me know down below. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed, and if we get over 800 likes, I will give away another 2 games in next video. Do subscribe and also leave a comment below to enter that giveaway, and check back next Wednesday to see the winner and more of these awesome Xbox sales. With that though, and whilst you're here, why don't you check out the video on screen now, as I did cover the 15 brand new Xbox and Game Pass games coming out this July that you need to keep your eye on.